Jumpstart webinar series. We've got an interesting topic today that Joel and I will be discussing. We're going to be discussing understanding credit repair business revenue models. So we've got Joel Pate with us. Joel, say hi to everyone out there.
Well, hello, everyone. Joshua, it's always great to be on our webinars and instructing folks and helping people build their business. Because, you know, recent studies, I think there was one it was May 2013 that Senator Claire McCaskill highlighted in that hearing. You can check that out on YouTube. It is just very powerful. It's just so evident that there's so many people that need our services that every credit repair business should be doing more business than they can handle. And that being the case, you know, what is the best revenue model in order to take the most advantage of that? Because we are in business to make money.
Absolutely. We've got a sample, or let's call it a case study, or a white paper maybe, that we can go ahead and discuss. We worked with one of our CROs, Joel, and he had these same questions. You know, what is the right credit repair business revenue model for his credit repair company? He thought that pay-per-delete was a much better model, and we'll be talking about that. And the monthly recurring revenue model was probably a better another model he wanted to understand a lot better. And I can tell you one thing: he was unclear on what were the pros and cons of each of them, and he didn't even know that there was a third one called a hybrid model that even existed. So we started from the actual revenue unit, and we started talking about that, and he came to the agreement that it was easier for him to implement a monthly recurring revenue model. So this is after all of our research with him and everything that he wanted to do inside of his company. We basically came up with this plan, which was a monthly recurring revenue model, but fed to his consumers with 4 different menus, or menu options. The idea here being that he's offering a small competitive, a smaller price point, or a less expensive price point that starts at $99, and he can show that price to the consumer. But at the same time, he can also offer a $199 monthly service fee. When this customer came to us, he originally wanted to go with one offer. He didn't understand the menu cell, and we quickly explained to him that he should consider offering more options, and he could define that price. And we're going to discuss that as well. You know, not only defining how many on the menu, and what revenue model to choose, but also what prices each of these models, each of these offers could have, and the reasoning behind that. So we did all this with him, and this was our deliverable, Joe.
Well, it's a great way to start and kind of express, you know, just all the different, not different necessarily models, because these are all just one model, the monthly model. But you know, what was interesting about it is what were you saying earlier was the number one seller here? What was being sold the most?
Actually, ironically enough, I thought normally customers would have 4 options. Will probably close most of their customers on the first offer, which is the least expensive, and then the next most popular will be the second offer. He's got an ability to close his customers between the third and the fourth offer. Most of his customers close between $179 and $199. This is very surprising to me, but the reality is that he's closing at a higher price point, and we've got CROs that are just giving monthly fees away and actually thinking of knocking their price down from $99 to $79.
So I'm on the phone with a guy the other day that is a great salesman. I'm not sure that there's a better salesman. He is great, but he continues to give money away faster than he can make it. And I said, well, what's going on with your business these days? He said, well, I'm signing up 30 people a month I said, are you kidding me? I said, how much? And we had a great relationship. We do his business at Score. We've done his business at Score. I said, well, how much money are you bringing in revenue? He said between $10,000 and $15,000. It actually said 10. And so I did the math real quick. I said, well, how much are you charging? And I think he said it was $150 for the first month. So that's 30 times 150. That's $4,500. I said, so then that means if your revenue is at 10,000, that means you're only keeping your customers 2 months. He said, well, that's exactly right. You do the math real quick. I said, well, then you got to change your model, because you can't afford to have revenue of only about $400 to $500 a customer and make any money. We bring in 30 customers a month. His revenue should have gotten up to, over a 4 or 5 month period, it should have gotten up to about $30,000 a month. But it had not, for a different reason. And it's that he couldn't keep his customers on long enough. Now, I want to stop right here and make the statement that we're not in any way, shape, or form suggesting how much you charge. We're not trying to fix prices. We're not trying to have anything along those lines. What we're trying to tell you, though, is that here's some revenue models. These are the pitfalls of each one, and you've got to be real careful, because if you choose incorrectly and don't implement exceptionally, you won't make any money, and thus you'll go find something else to do, or just just scrape along and never really be successful, Joshua. So that's one. I wanted to bring those 2 points out. Here's a revenue model that's kind of got an anticipation of 4 or 5 months service, and you've got to be careful that you end up getting that sort of revenue out of each customer, because that's what you got to have to make money.
Yeah, we've got to be careful. We can't undercut our profitability. So what's the right price? Well, there's a lot. We're going to be talking about that, but as a broad stroke, as much as you can get, and offering one option is confusing to consumers. They're not used to that in this world of a multitude of options, of the internet, the era of the internet. I mean, we have too many options, if any. And offering one $99 price point, or one $149 price point, or whatever the price may be, is definitely a travesty. You always want to give your customers options, especially on monthly recurring revenue services. You can make money on a monthly plan. You've got there's things that you can do to maximize that revenue, and we want all of you to understand that, and that's why we want to cover this topic today.
Good. Well, let's get going here. One of the first models we want to discuss is the pay-for-delete model. And the first question that comes up is should I have what's the difference between a consultation and a setup fee? Kind of all in one here, define the appropriate price. And a real key element that most people miss when they're thinking about how much to charge. See, there's 2 ways to approach how much to charge. One is what will the market bear, but that's not the only thought, or that's one bullet point in the overall question of how much should I charge. The next one is the concept of cost absorption. So Joshua, let's talk about that for a second.
We want to be, when we have a sales endeavor accompanied with a servicing or a recurring revenue model, and if we have a one-time or lump sum sale, what we want to try to do is try to absorb 100% of all of our incurred costs per customer with that consultation or setup fee. That's our opinion. What does that look like? If we charge, let's say, $249, $249 should cover our cost of acquisition, should cover the servicing of the account for 4 to 6 months, depending on the retention that you have on average with your consumers, or that if you don't have any consumers, the retention that you wish to have. And you want to contemplate the cost involved around that. What is the average cost of calling that customer on a monthly basis, sending emails, filling out paperwork, attaching documents, all of those administrative fees, as well as the cost of processing. If you're doing it in-house, Well, how much does it truly cost you? It's not just the flat, $10 times 8 hours a day. There's a lot more costs involved. How much is what is the distribution of or allocation of office costs that are allocated to that department and to that specific person, as well as managing that person. All of those costs, and we've got a cost calculator that if you need from us, you can go ahead and send us an email, and we'll be able to provide you with that, or go to our members-only site and you can get it there as well. But that is what cost absorption is. We want to be able, the concept is, let's price our product, our consultation or setup fee with the appropriate amount that it takes to absorb all of those costs. And so what would that leave over? Pure profit with all of the monthly recurring revenue. And that's what we want to do. We want to assume and be able to absorb that cost. Quite frankly, what we don't do, or some of the some CROs I've seen not contemplate that, and they try to see what the market will bear. They don't do their due diligence on the absorption, and when those two do not meet at the right way, you are going to have a loss. You're going to have to carry the business, and you'll for instead of 1 month, maybe 3 or 4 months. But if you continue to apply this concept and appropriately price your product, then you're going to be at a position of advantage with cash flow on your end, with money in the bank. Now you can choose to implement in other things, such as processes and technology, to decrease some of those cost points. Then and only then should you be decreasing pricing with regards to consultation and setup fees. That's my opinion, Joe.
Yeah, and very good slide, and we should have had a separate slide just for this, but we didn't. But that's an excellent point. Now, the next line item there is, how do I pay for monthly service from a first round of disputes? Obviously, I made a mistake there, and I apologize for having that there, so that's superfluous and part of another slide. Joshua, one of the things and aspects of the pay for the lead versus the monthly model, they're similar issues. You got accounts receivable issue. How should I get paid? How should I charge? And should I charge an audit fee up front? And then, how much should I charge for my services? And what services should I charge for? Now, we got the next slide's going to show you some of those things. But let's talk a second about pay for the lead and 2 absolute non-negotiables. Now, when I mean the non-negotiable, let me describe that to you. When you run your business, you have 2 basic 10,000-foot vantage point. You've got 2 choices. One is to be a boutique in which everything's a la carte, and you'll make it any way somebody wants to have it. Okay, you'll adjust, you'll change the rules. You have no rules even. Okay, on one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is you establish non-negotiables with the thought in mind that I'm going to have these offers, and these are really the only offers I'm going to have. I've got some room for myself and my employees to adjust to, but by and large, no one is going to be allowed not to have or not to do or go through the process of these non-negotiables. So one of them for pay for the lead, and you just write this down in big block letters on your notepad right there, that you cannot move forward with and be successful with pay for the lead without this. And that is that each customer must have credit monitoring. Now, I like to go one step further, and each customer must have a particular credit monitoring service, which makes it easy for you to have a consistent review of all the credit reports. Last week, I reviewed about 5 different credit reports, and they are all very different from each other. So if you're looking at one credit report every time, then you just become more efficient. But they must have credit monitoring. Now, Joshua, why is that? Okay, and the answer is because if you charge somebody whatever it is, $50 an item, $100 an item, $1,000 an item, whatever it is, and you're successful and you get 10 items off, and all of a sudden they owe you $500 or $750, they may just decide not to pay you. Okay, I've seen it happen a dozen or more times. Okay. The second non-negotiable in my book is that they must set up a special purpose bank account that's FDIC insured with TransferPay out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Why is that? Because that allows you to not separate, but distance the consumer from their money by putting these funds that they're going to owe you in a special purpose bank account that's set up during the contracting process, so that when you're successful, you notify the consumer that, hey, I've been able to, get these number of items off, and based on our agreement, you owe me X. Well, the money's there. And that special purpose bank account, again, while being FDIC insured, and while it's their money and they can get the money back with 10 days notice, okay, that money is not accessible with a Visa card or a debit card, a debit card or a check. So they can't make these spontaneous purchases that otherwise people do, so that when you're owed the money, you got to call them and say, well, I don't get paid till next week. Now, when you earn money, which is on a schedule, because unless you don't get any items deleted, you'll know coming up on the 31st or the 22nd or the 3rd that you're going to have the opportunity for a revenue unit. And so when you've earned the money and you can take the money the next day versus having to wait until the consumer gets around to paying you, is a dramatic difference in the way you're able to run your business. So if you're going to do pay for delete, you've got to have those two non-negotiables in place. And if you don't abide by that, you're going to have problems from day one, Joshua, that you won't be able to overcome.
Absolutely. It's going to have a direct correlation on the amount of receivables that you're going to have in the future. If credit monitoring is not part of your process, and I'm going to go further, Joe, if you're doing any credit repair today and you're not using a credit monitoring service as a non-negotiable inside of your process, you should consider it heavily. It influences the way you are going to interact with that consumer proactively versus reactively in the future. One other point with regards to a special purpose account like TransferPay is that with pay for delete, when you sell, it's a different sale. You want to maximize the revenue as much as you can get to be put into that special purpose account. And it's a simple sale. And you can explain this to anybody and they'll understand. If you put $1,000 into that account today, I am going to use $1,000 worth of resources to get as much as I can get removed every month until it has exhausted itself. If you deposit $100 into that account today, I am going to exhaust $100 worth of resources to get your credit repair completed. So it's simple math. If you've got more money, we can achieve an aggressive posture. If you don't have more money in that special, we can achieve that, and that's what it's all about with pay for delete. It puts the control of the results and the aggressiveness of the credit repair into the consumer's hands, and we try to sell pay for delete very differently. We try to sell a monthly model charged per deleted item, and it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're not able to ask for, let's just call it this proverbial $1,000. Now let's come back to that in just a second, how we got there. If you're not able to say, now your good faith estimate indicates you're going to owe around $1,000 if we're successful, let's go ahead and set aside that amount today. Now that's the sell. And quite often, about 50% of the time, about 25% of the time, they'll put the $1,000 in there. About 50% of the time, they're going to be able to put half of it in there this month and half next month. And about 25% of the time, they'll need to put in as low as $300. But you only get what you ask for. So very good point, Joshua, that you ask for it all. Now,
ask for it all.
Ask for it all. So let's move on to the next slide. This is some outtakes from some sample contracts that we have, and this indicates that even with the pay-for-delete model, there's the potential to have a credit audit fee connected to this. Now, I can tell you that credit repair sold through real estate agents and mortgage people sells real well with pay-for-delete. They love it that your interests are aligned with their customers. What they don't like at all is the fact that they're going to refer their client to somebody. They're not going to know what the results are. They don't know if you're going to call them or not. And all these things are running around their mind. Why? Because that's the experience they've had in the past. I can tell you another thing about getting business from real estate agents and mortgage people. If you only show up once and never come back, it's a waste of time. Don't even bother going there. Don't bother going somewhere you can't go to a couple of times a month and touch them 3 or 4 times a month. Because they are on purpose, because they are not going to do business with you just because you showed up one time. Okay, so this credit audit fee this is somewhat of a hybrid, or introducing a hybrid here, where even with a pay-for-delete, you could charge for an audit fee. It's certainly legal to do. It's certainly okay to do, but you know, we have a lot of companies that are selling pay-for-delete with no upfront fee whatsoever. You put this $500 to $1,000 in the account, and instead of $75 or $50 an item, they charge $300 for the first item and $75 or some other amount for the subsequent item. So instead of getting this credit audit fee the first, you know, within a couple of days, they're getting it within about 35 days. So again, depending upon your cash flow, is whether or not you can handle not getting any credit audit fee. You know, part of the decision to have a credit audit fee or not, Joshua, is depending upon your ability to hold on 35 days without one.
So let's recap. So let's recap there, Joel. You've mentioned the audit fee, kind of charged 1 month later by not charged. Let me rephrase that. Not 1 month later, but being charged as a first deletion or first work fee. Right. We've got so there's 2 options on the table: have a credit audit or consultation fee, and then charge a per deleted price per line item, and that could be a variable rate. Everyone, it could be a fixed, let's say, X dollar value for each type or of account, or it could be across the board the same price. It depends on how you want to price that out. The simpler is always better. But there's a third option to this. We've got customers that not only charge a consultation fee, but also charge a first work fee. And quite frankly, I think that's the best model with pay-per-delete. Pay-per-delete customers are going to, if you get a lot of results for them, and results will happen within the first 3 to 4 months, you'll probably receive about 50% of all of the customer's credit repair results on average. So having said that, that's the time that you want to really monetize as much as you can legally. Charging a first work fee in conjunction to a consultation fee, where the consultation fee is a complete standalone product that starts and ends with a specific start and end point or description of service on it, is its own product, and you can charge for that legally after you've delivered the service. But then you're going to charge for the pay-per-delete, and charging that first work fee is absolutely phenomenal, Joe.
Yeah, and again, that's a very good point. You know, so what are these typical audit fees? Well, they range, you know, broadly, and again, there's 2 things to take into account of how much that may be. And we put X's here on purpose because we don't want to be misunderstood that we're suggesting price fixing amongst Scores customers or amongst the credit repair industry. So we want to stay away from that, just so we put these X's here. But, you know, we've seen credit audit fees anywhere from $90. I've seen them as high as $499. I've seen the first deletion fee be as low as $50 and as high as $300. And I've seen the combination of a credit audit fee at $300 and the first deletion at $300 as well. I've seen subsequent fees be served up on a menu where a 30-day late is X number of dollars, a 90-day late X number of dollars, a tax lien, et cetera, and they've got a menu of services of how they charge for that. And again, I'm going to refrain from giving you any legal advice here because, you know, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not going to take on that liability. So before you make that decision, you should check with counsel that is up to speed. Don't go talk to your real estate lawyer or your tax lawyer about this because they don't have any idea. You need to contact Robbie Birnbaum, and if you don't have his number, we can get it for you, down in at the Greenspoon Martyr firm in Florida, Robbie Birnbaum. And he knows what he's doing, and he doesn't have to, you know, it's cheaper to hire somebody and pay them a lot of money per hour when they know the answer to the question without having to research it. But you know, so those are the options that you can consider. Now, this is another. So, what are you going to do? So, this is the credit audit fee, and these are a couple of the items that you would be doing in order to earn that fee. You know, guide the client in obtaining credit monitoring, help the client understand the impact of items.
Let me tell you what the audit fee should never have inside of it: sending letters.
Right.
That has nothing to do with the audit fee. That has everything to do with the monthly dispute process, or that is either going to be monetized in a pay-per-delete fashion or a monthly recurring revenue model or a hybrid model. It has nothing to do with the consultation. Consultation is that. You're going to consult your client. You're going to guide them. You're going to teach them. You're going to give them deliverables. Explain your deliverables. Everything that you have, you're going to cover. And if you can put a time frame on it, do it. As long as it has a beginning and an end, it's phenomenal to have in there. It has to be a clear, definable description of the service.
And it should not confuse what you're going to do in the future with what you've already completed in order to get paid.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now,
and sending the letters would be the beginning of the dispute process. So that would tie in your consultation to the dispute process. Now there's a line that has to be defined. Well, I'm pretty sure that if you had a regulator come in, he'll probably define it, but he's going to ask you the question because it's not clear. And by experience, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you one thing. If the question needs to be asked, you've already lost half the battle.
Oh, yeah. You got to be real clear and real simple, too. So, and this phrase indicates that you're going to charge a correction fee for the first item uniquely to the next items, okay, so the subsequent items. So your first item is pay for performance. First correction fee consists of one installment of X for the first deletion or correction. Again, that could be $50. It could be $5,000, whatever it is you want to charge. But we see numbers of $200 or $300 for that first item.
Absolutely.
Now, when we speak of items, let's talk about that. What is an item? And again, you know, the world needs more direct talk, okay? The world needs to eliminate as much wiggle words as possible. So when we ask a question, we're going to give a specific answer here, and an item is defined as a trade line on a bureau. So a trade line of, let's say, a Mitsubishi trade line on Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, if you were charging, as an example only, $300 for the first item and $75 for every item thereafter, and the first trade line was a Mitsubishi, it was on all three bureaus. The second trade line was a Visa card on all three bureaus. Okay, so kind of a test question here. And the first item was deleted from Mitsubishi on Equifax. The second items were deleted on the next trade line, were deleted from TransUnion and Experian. So you got $300 for the first Mitsubishi Equifax deletion, and you got $75 for the Experian and $75 for the TransUnion on the next trade line. Or if the first Mitsubishi payment was deleted from all three, you would have earned $300 for the first item, $75 for the second, $75 for the second. That's how this works in the world in which I see credit repair companies charging various fees. So it's not $300 for the Mitsubishi on all three. It's $300 for the Mitsubishi on one bureau.
Yes, it's when you get a first delete or first repair. Now, it's important to point out, a delete or repair, in our opinion, is something that changes the status of that account from a derogatory to a non-derogatory status. So if you got one late payment removed, if you want to charge for that, be very careful. I can tell you right now that's going to be a tough sell and a tough explanation to charge a consumer for every single late payment removed if the customer has multiple late payments.
Yeah,
that's
I
just
think
going to
that
be
would
very
be a
difficult.
Very good point. I'm glad you brought that up. I think it not only would it be difficult, it'd be real difficult. And so, again, being very careful to not try to steer the industry in one particular way or another. In my opinion, if I was talking to one person, I'd say that until every aspect of that trade line is not negative, you've not repaired it. Or until every aspect of that trade line is removed, you've not deleted it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one of the things we were helping some clients get some business in the debt settlement industry, big clients, and they said, no, look, I don't want you nickel and diming our customers. And that's what we're talking about here. If he's got 3 late payments, you need to get them all off or not charge, in my opinion. So now, Joshua, this is an excerpt from an agreement with the pay for delete on the subsequent items, setting forth what would be included in your agreement with your client.
Absolutely. Now now everything that, if you look at these are all of the things that you need to do one time, multiple times. These are all of the activities that are going to occur when you in order for the dispute process to happen. So once again, just to reiterate, it has nothing to do with the consultation. These are things, setting up a client in your software, sending mail, receiving mail, calling the customer to review, all of those things that you do that deal with the dispute process, those are the things that should be in that part of your description of services within your contract. And once again, with a very succinct start and stop point. If it's a monthly recurring revenue model, and we'll take a look at what that may look like later on, but on a monthly recurring revenue model, you have to define when the charge when you've incurred in it, the consumer has incurred in a charge. And in the case with paper delete, it's when the line item is either deleted or repaired in a specific credit reporting agency, if that's what you have in your contract. But these are all the things that you do to get to that point.
Exactly. Okay, so let's look at the monthly revenue model for a moment. We've already talked about menu pricing, consultation versus the setup fee. Joshua, I don't think we just talked about that earlier. Is there a difference in your view between a consultation or a setup fee? Or is that just verbiage?
I think a long time ago, that's what I called that fee when I started my credit repair business. I'm no longer in the credit repair retail business, but when I did, that's what I first called it. Later on, I renamed it to a consultation fee. And the reason why we did that was because it had nothing to do with the setup. It had everything to do with the consult. I didn't know why. It was incorrect. But after I, educated myself, I figured out that that the two services, the monthly service, because I had a monthly recurring revenue model, and the consultation service needed to be very separate from each other, and they could not overlap. And I spoke about that earlier. With regards to the setup fee, I think that's something that came from legacy companies setting you up inside of their service, or because there's a membership type service being marketed. I've seen that before. Whether it's legal, I don't know. I don't have any legal documentation to back me up on any arguments around there. And if I've come to the point, Joe, that if I don't know anything about it, I only stick to what I do know, especially when dealing with compliance issues. It would be interesting. Maybe we may want to have Robbie Birnbaum talk about that at some point in time to everyone.
Well, let me tell you a little insight into a conversation that I overheard between a credit repair company and the Better Business Bureau. Now, this guy had a acidic relationship with the Better Business Bureau, and the Better Business Bureau in this area, just didn't like credit repair at all, which means, you've got to, if you want a good BBB rating, you've got to be proactive. Now, we're not going to digress to that, because that's a whole other lesson. But the gentleman had a whatever the fee was initially, setup fee. And the guy says, well, what do you mean setup fee? You're getting paid to set up a customer in your CRM program. You're getting paid to enter his name there. You're getting paid to enter his credit report in his docs. And the guy had a real hard time explaining that. He says, well, quite frankly, and really, we don't set up someone in our CRM program until after we pull their report, so that's an action. We've talked to them on the phone, that's an action. And we've reviewed their credit report with them, that's an action. And we've consulted with them about the issues they're facing with regard to their credit and their finances, and that's an action. So really, we're not getting paid to enter someone on our computer, which would be a setup fee, let's call it, based on this conversation, this definition. But in fact, you're getting paid for the things you did. You're getting paid to do the work of a credit repair company in a consultative way, just like a lawyer would or someone else earning a fee. So that's why I believe that you should lean more towards the consultation fee, or even another term, audit fee. But audit fee may indicate that you quote unquote audited the file, which audit I think brings out another definition that maybe you want to stay away from. So I like consultation personally for those reasons. All right, so one of the key things here is in understanding the timeline is when can I get paid for what on a monthly revenue model? Well, recent court rulings, judge rulings, has indicated that you can get paid after you perform the work for which you contracted for with the consumer in writing. So if you've got a consultation fee and you sign a contract that says, I'm going to review your credit, and after I review your credit, you're going to owe me X, $199, $99, $5,000, whatever the case may be, that's what you're going to owe me when I get through doing your consultation. And they say, okay, you sign a contract, and that's what you do, and that's what you get paid for. And then the way it works in the real world is that you're going to do your first round of disputes. Well, guess what? After you've done your first round of disputes, then you've done something for which you can get paid for based on the way you've written your contract. Okay? So if you've written your contract that says on the monthly service, I'm going to do disputes and I'm going to charge you $99 a month for that, or I'm going to charge you $199 a month for that, whatever your fee is that's clear in the agreement, then Joshua, in relationship, not regarding cash flow that the consumer can afford, but when have you then earned that fee for the dispute services for that first month that probably occurred 2 or 3 or 4 days after you did the consultation fee? And the answer is that you've earned it that day. But most consumers have a budget, so we got to deal with the budget now.
Well, quite frankly, the dispute service fee on a monthly recurring revenue model should happen when any of a myriad of different services have been initiated or completed. Whenever one of those services has been engaged, for example, reviewing a credit report or sending out the letters. So as soon as you send out the letters, if one or more of those services have been invoked, there should be a monthly click charge or a monthly service fee. Now the thing is that you're going to be charging for that service 30 days in arrears, or in arrears. Let's call it the right way, in arrears, and normally around that time frame. But
all right,
the reality is that the customer owes that money as soon as the services have started to happen, okay, and one or more of those services have been invoked.
Well, let's be more clear. I think that the moment you complete whatever it is you agreed to do, you've earned the money. You've not completed it when you started it. You've not earned it when you're halfway through. You've earned it after you've sent the letters out the door. Let's just say that that's
exactly.
a real definitive commissionable or revenue event. I review the credit report. That's the consultation fee. And then when doing the dispute letters, I review the credit report. Well, I don't think you can charge a fee then. I wrote the letters. I don't think you can charge a fee then. I put them in an envelope. I don't think you can charge a fee then. I put a stamp on it. I don't think you can charge a fee then. I think you can charge a fee when you mail them out the door. But you've earned the fee then.
And see, that's the problem, Joel. A lot of companies get very creative here, and what they're doing is shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, this is a business you don't want to get fancy about. Okay, you want to run right at the, as we say in football, you want to run right north and south. No fancy footwork here. Run directly north and south, and so saying, so you've contracted to do your monthly dispute letters. You do the monthly dispute letters. You complete the monthly dispute letters. You've earned your money. And so based on your client's ability to pay, you could, in fact, charge them on the spot, right that minute. You've earned your fee. But what we find with most companies is that their customer can't manage paying a credit audit fee initially or credit consultation fee initially, and then pay your monthly service 4 or 5 days later. So the point we're trying to make here is that so you're going to charge every 30 days, monthly, on the anniversary date usually of when they signed up. So think about this. You did the consultation fee 2 or 3 days. Let's say that's January. Let's say that was November the 1st. And then on the 2nd or the 3rd or the 4th, you did the letters. You've earned your fee, but based on the fact your customer can't afford but whatever it is a month, then on December the 1st, typically we see that the credit repair company charges their client that monthly service fee for the work that was done 28 days ago. Now, they do that for one of two reasons. They do it because that's the correct way to do it. Let me make another point here. We see a lot of other companies doing it what we say incorrectly. They wait until after they do the second round of disputes to charge the customer, forgetting that they earned a fee 30 days ago when they did the first round of disputes. So that's the primary reason that this
and the reason why they make that mistake, Joel, is because they see all the setup process and creating those first letters as part of the consultation. So they're a little bit, they haven't been able to understand what is the consultation and what is the actual monthly service.
Exactly. So we want to define it and define it well in the contract. So then here's another benefit of this, Joshua. So on that 30th day, let's say in this case, in this example, December the 1st, so then I'm going to charge the customer, whether that's credit card, e-check, whatever the case may be, or even the special purpose bank account model. I'm going to gather my money. I'm going to validate that the funds have cleared, and then I'm going to obligate myself for the second round of disputes, whether you're paying score or you're doing them in-house, because you don't want to do the second round of disputes having not gotten paid for the first round. And Joshua, we see this happen less now with our customers than we used to, because our customers will look up and say, well, I paid you for 3 rounds of disputes, and I haven't gotten paid by my client. I can't afford to pay for your service. The problem isn't you can't afford to pay for a service. The problem is you did work on the wrong client. You did work on the client that wasn't paying you.
You see, and let's go back. Now we're comparing the revenue models here. So this is a big difference, big aha moment right here, Joel. With pay per delete, the more funds the customer deposits into his special purpose account, the more aggressively you can go after getting more results. So that means you can not only go after just doing normal credit reporting agency disputes, but maybe you have a lot of leeway and funding to go ahead and engage a multitude of different strategies or direct-to-creditor disputes. Okay, so that is something that you can do freely. But when you're on a monthly recurring revenue model, it's not about that. It's about managing the attrition and managing correctly your cash flow with your monthly revenue model. Okay, and if you're selling, you're doing a menu sale, well, then you're taking into consideration a specific set or amount of direct-to-creditor disputes every month. So you've got to be able to manage that differently. These are completely different ways of thinking when managing the way you aggressively pursue the dispute process. So big difference here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now let's move on to talk about accounts receivable. And Joshua, you've got some statistics on monthly revenue models and the collection rate.
Absolutely. When I was in the credit repair business, about 70% of our customers, and we probably got maybe as good as, let's say we got 80% to pay, but it was in spurts. On average, 70% of our customers would pay. So that means out of every $10 we earned, we really made we really retained $7. So if I saw a $10 bill, it was really a 7, because there's going to be some other client that didn't pay that amount of money 30% of the time. So that's important that if you're in the monthly recurring revenue model, you take a look at this. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, trends to pay or any special purpose account type pre-funding mechanism is detrimental to a pay-per-delete model, because you don't have any recurring revenue coming in unless you perform the results. And if you pay for those results and then you don't get paid, it can be disastrous. It can be even greater than that. I've seen numbers as low as 40 and 50 percentile if you don't have a pre-funding strategy around that with pay-per-delete. So don't even consider doing that at all. I mean, it can be detrimental to your business. But guess what? Up until today, we've always said that the monthly recurring revenue model is probably a safer and easier way to be managed. But let me tell you what we're starting to see, Joel, is that with trends to pay or a special purpose account built into monthly recurring revenue, it just makes it excellent. It puts those numbers up there because you're going to be pre-funding customer accounts way before the anniversary date of the dispute, and you can choose to turn on or turn off customers freely because you can see the funding of those accounts proactively, not reactively. And it's a great thing to manage your business that way. It's just a better microscope at that accounts receivable, and it's a great thing.
Well, and to make that more clear, what that means is that, let's just pick a number. Say you're going to charge $149 a month for your service, and as we've discussed here, you did the consultation fee, and then you did the first round of disputes, and then you watch the consumer fund that trans to pay account, and so you know the money's there, versus you're going to run their credit card and wonder if the money's there. And you really won't. Now with credit cards, you know instantly. Of course, they could do a chargeback, and somebody with trans to pay could ask for a refund. But I've not had any specific experience that's worth talking about with a customer on the monthly model and that used trans to pay. But I can tell you we've got a number of customers that have implemented the pay for delete and trans to pay, and one in particular, out of 60 clients in the first 5 months, I think it was, or 4 months of starting up, they had 100% collection. 100%.
That's great. That's outstanding. Things
And
that
the average revenue model, the average revenue is almost $1,000 customer.
Yeah, and the reason why that's outstanding, Joe, is because these are things that we didn't even think we can get to that point. And the only reason why you can is because you've got total control of your accounts receivable proactively, not reactively. I mean,
right.
And you may think, let me tell you why that's so important. Well, all of the unplanned activities that you have to perform because the customer doesn't clear a payment are incredible. But if you know that the customer is not coming, it's not a surprise, and now you plan for that interaction. Okay,
exactly.
Big difference.
Having to chase people for money becomes a job that keeps you from signing up other customers. Now, Josh, we talked about this already. Let's just touch on it. The benefit of doing proactive credit repair. We've got another entire presentation on this, but if for the companies that make credit monitoring a non-negotiable, their businesses run smoother than those that don't. I mean, it's just simple. And again, that's a whole other topic. And so for the sake of time, let's keep moving here. This is a sample part of our a contract that we see credit repair companies using. That the credit audit fee, credit consultation fee, whatever you want to call it, consists of a one-time credit audit fee that ends when the credit audit is given to the customer by the credit repair owner's name. The following items are considered to be a complete list of items included as part of the credit audit fee. A guide to obtaining credit monitoring. Okay. Help the customer understand the impact of items on the credit report in order for the customer to point out what information may be incorrect and need further verification by the credit bureaus. Provide a credit restoration plan based on the customer's credit report. Provide customer with a credit score consultation based on the 5 areas of impact to the score. So we're saying, as an example, here are 4 points that you've agreed to do that would be included as the service you're going to provide for your credit audit fee. And once you've provided those, you've provided all the services related to the credit audit fee.
So what's the takeaway from this? Be very frugal when putting in things just to put them in there because they sound good. You just can't do that. If you're not going to deliver, do not even put it in your consultation because you'll be charging in advance. Simple as that.
All right. Now, again, this is the monthly service fee. Consists of consecutive monthly installments of X number of dollars per month after 6 or 12 months. And again, that's a whole other lesson there. In some states, you can only charge for 6 months. Will service a customer's account on a month-to-month basis. The following items are examples of the actions and our products that define our monthly services. Our monthly services are collected upon completion of one or more of the items indicated below. Now, I'm going to voice my disagreement with that statement. I think it should be we're going to collect our fees when we've done these things, and I would rather say when we've sent out the letter, we're going to get paid. But this is another example of the way that it could be.
Yes, this is another example. The takeaway from this, Joe, is that it's defining the services, and it's dividing specifically what a consultation is from what a monthly service fee is. Right. So obviously, anything that we suggest to you, you always have to take to an attorney because we are by no means trying to practice law without a license. But we're trying to save you money and a lot of legwork because what we've seen in our customers end up happening to do is actually educating their attorneys in order for them to provide them legal counsel. And that's a problem. So you're probably not talking to the right attorney. So be very careful with that. When you take things like this to the right attorneys, they'll be able to work off of this. It's easier for them to work off of something that's well guided and prepared than to work off of something that they, number one, have no clue about because that's not their specialty, and number two, they've got to start from scratch. I can guarantee you the contract's going to get costly there.
Well, Joshua, we've come to the end of our presentation about the revenue models. There's, a lot more to discuss, but this gives you the basis of a great amount of understanding. We have other webinars on both subjects to go into greater detail, so we welcome you to go and visit those. We also welcome you to consider our Fair Debt Collection Practice Act department. Most of your consumers are, if they've got collections on their credit report, Joshua, they're getting calls from creditors. And if you're getting calls from a creditor, it's just a matter of time before they violate your rights. And we've got an entire training on that as well. Joshua, we have webinars every Tuesday and every, I put Wednesday here by mistake, I apologize for that, every Thursday, Tuesday and Thursday at 3 p.m.
Actually, Joe, every Tuesday are our Scoreway webinars, but they've gone, you can actually subscribe now to our Scoreway webinar, and that's pretty much to understand what our Scoreway turnkey credit repair business solution is all about. You can really replay that whenever you want to have it. It's not only every Tuesday, it's almost every day. You can schedule one for any day of the week now. And we are soon, we're going to go ahead and announce, and soon we're going to be moving to our webinars to that same format. So we're going to give a lot of you out there, of our audience, faithful audience, the opportunity to replay these webinars on demand whenever you need to as a SCORE customer.
Well, that'll be great. I know that it's very difficult for a lot of people to do something at 3 o'clock or at a particular time. So to be able to replay it, almost any time you want to is a great, really a great addition to our services. So we're very excited to have that available soon. Joshua, we suggest that people use myiqreport.com. It accesses a $60.95 every 30-day refresh of all 3 bureaus. I continue to look around for credit offers that are better or at least just as good, and I cannot find one. This
well, let's be clear. We cannot find one that has all of the features that this credit monitoring service has for this price point.
Sure. Oh, yeah, there's other ones, and some of them are less expensive. Most are more. But for all of these features, they're all more. So we recommend that you use this. This is a way for you to connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter and on LinkedIn as well. We recommend that you do that. Joshua, the social media is just exploding. It is, you could say it's already exploded, right? Facebook's got 1 billion users. That's pretty much blown up. But it's just going to grow from here. And the way we interact and the depth. I don't know if you're a frequent watcher of the Today Show, but my wife is, and I in and out of the room while she's watching that in the morning, and they're almost their entire show now is based around the hub of social media. The Oprah Winfrey show, it does the same thing. They're getting in tweets as the show goes on, and that's how they're taking their questions these days. So it's really taking over many more aspects of life. I'm not even sure if we even can contemplate how it's going to affect us.
Well, yeah, it is exploding. Social interaction is definitely the way of the future, and it's partially because, Joe, that you made that comment, is because more users carry around personal devices that can access Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and stumble on. They can access all of this freely, very quickly from their iPhones and Droids. So that's part, and within by the end of 2014, that number should grow by twice. It should double. So right now, about 40% of all internet access is done on a PDA or a device. Okay,
yeah,
so that means that we're not. That's about 4 times as much as it was 3 years ago, and it's going to be twice as much by the end of 2014. These are statistics that are on the web. So it's definitely something that you need to interact with. We're trying to be more social at SCORE. If you've got any recommendations, feel free to email me, Joshua@Scoreinc.com, and let me know, and we'll be happy to take a look at your suggestions, because we want to be as social as we can. One other thing I want to mention is that we've got our new Scoreway chat on our website, and we will be coming out soon with our new website, which is going to be a lot better, a lot more intuitive and interactive for all of you out there. But we have already integrated our Scoreway chat. Feel free to use that and ask both service and sales questions to both customers and non-customers alike. And remember that our FDCPA program is not only for SCORE members, it's for everyone out there, and it's completely free, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to pay anything to start up with our FDCPA program. So that's all I've got for everyone today, Joe.
Well, another great webinar. We really thank everyone for joining us, and we look forward to speaking with you. If you want to demo our software, you want to demo our product, go to our website. We've got a scheduled demo button over on the far right. There's a contact us form. Or heck, we want you to give us a call. We answer our phone, and we're here. Our office hours are Josh, let's kind of talk about this. We've just had going through the change of time where we fell back to daylight savings time, and in Puerto Rico, you guys don't change your time.
Yeah,
so right now it's Atlantic time, which is 1 hour
ahead of
Eastern. Yeah. So it's a little bit different, but still. So what are our office hours at this time, Central Standard or Eastern time?
Could you repeat that, Joe?
Yeah. So our current office hours are 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 Eastern.
8 to 5 Eastern.
Okay. Good. Good. Well, that helps folks out. They know when they can communicate with us. Well, everyone, again, thank you for joining us today. We've had another great webinar. Joshua, it's always good to be here.
Thank you, and have a great week, everyone.